Peace, family. This is the Draggin podcast, and I am the HDIC, the head Draggin in charge, Ayapo Yapa. And I'm here to have conversations on how to get off this plantation. On today's Draggin podcast, I want to talk about the draggin.
Excuse me. I'm sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to make sure that you listeners are listening to the Drapedomaniac podcast on doayamedia.com. You are, right?
Ever since the death of Kobe Bryant and his daughter, there's been a lot of dragging going on. People just getting dragged. Gayle King getting dragged. Snoop Dogg getting dragged. Oprah getting dragged. Everybody getting dragged. And I had to ask myself, finally, what's the point of dragging all these people? Now, I want to say this real quick. I'm not even saying that some of these people don't deserve to be dragged. When it comes to Oprah, anybody who knows me knows how I feel about her. I often say, she's the worst thing that has happened to the black man since slavery. And I mean that. I'm no fan of Gayle King. As a matter of fact, you all know how I feel about celebrities in general anyway. But that's not even the point anymore for me. When I'm watching all this dragging going on YouTube, when I'm watching all this dragging going on Twitter and on social media, what I'm thinking about is, okay, let's take this out to its logical end. We have dragged Gayle King. We dragged her good. We dragged her until she's nothing but bones. What have we accomplished? What have we accomplished? His dragging her until she's nothing but bones gotten us out of this system? Has dragging her until she is bones done anything to make a dent at all in this system of white supremacy from which we should be trying to escape? That's what I want to know. I don't like wasting my time talking about celebrities. Now, I'm not, this is no shade on anyone who talks about celebrities or talks about Gayle King or any of these people who are in the news lately. We talk about what we talk about. We talk about what we're passionate about and so on. It is what it is. But for me, my every thought is always about how are we going to get off this plantation? How are we going to get away from this system? And quite frankly, the fact that we even care so much about these things and these people who attack us shows that we're not really ready to get off the plantation. Because if you don't care, then you don't care. If you're about to leave a job and someone says, well, they're building a new break room, what do you care? You're about to leave your job and they say, they're saying that the people who work in your section are no longer allowed to go on breaks at 2:00. What do you care? You're leaving. What's that got to do with you? And then after you're gone, someone comes up to you and says, the supervisor did thus and so and said this and that. What do you care? You're gone. What has that got to do with you? Has nothing to do with you. Absolutely nothing. And when you get to the point where these things don't matter to you, when you get to the point where you're like, I'm done with all of it, then that's when you know that you're ready to separate. Because, or as we are having these discussions in social media and talking about who said what and what was out of pocket and all this, we're saying what to who? Who are you talking to? Who are you worried about? Who are you worried about the way that we look? Because quite frankly, if you're worried about what white people's perception is of us, if you're worried about what white people say about us or think about us, then in my opinion, that's a problem. Because I couldn't care less. I care what our people think about us. I care about what our people think. And that's it. I don't care about how we're looked at or perceived, because frankly, no matter what you do, we're going to be looked at and perceived by white society in that way anyway. And once again, if your goal is to separate from it, then why do you care? That said, I know these things make us angry. I was going to say they make me angry, but at the same time, no, they kind of don't. Because what do you expect? What do you expect from people who are lapdogs and the water carriers for the system of white supremacy? They do what it is that they do. Why do you expect anything more from them than what they're doing? I expect them to do exactly what they do. And that's it. But I will say this about us doing all this dragging of each other. There are many of us, me included, Malcolm X included, and I'm not trying to say that I'm on a par with Malcolm X. I'm just using myself as an example also, but especially Malcolm X because he's a good example. If you had caught him in his development before he came to his consciousness, before he came to his right mind, before he came to his self, we would call him all kinds of coon and swirler. We're talking about Malcolm X. But since he got to move beyond what he was and continue to grow, he became an icon. He became an example of what a lot of us need to seek to be and to surpass. As black men, especially. And that can be said of any of us. Of any of us. We need to start thinking about the way that we were 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, if you're that old. Are you that same person? Did you grow and develop? What if someone had caught you at the time when you was a coon, or at that time when you were chasing white men or white women? And they'd have called you all kinds of swirler and bed wench and bed buck and everything else. But you hadn't gone further in your development yet. And if we're honest, within this system, a high percentage of us, as black people in the United States, how can you avoid that obstacle course? How can you avoid falling into those traps? Because you're trained from the time you're born to the time you die, from sun up to sundown, every day when you go to school. Everything you do is teaching you to hate yourself. And then you come across a black person who hates their self because they were trained to hate their self, and you got all this smoke for them. I'm not trying to defend wrong. I'm not trying to defend saying and doing things that are wrong. Because like I said, I am no fan of Oprah Winfrey. I am no fan of Gayle King. I think both of them are out of pocket. But at the same time, while we're casting all this judgment on each other, we need to sometimes turn that mirror on ourselves, or turn that light on ourselves. If someone had caught me 10 years ago, what would they have thought of me? If one of our people had caught me 20 years ago, what would they have thought of me? Have I always been in the fight? Have I always been pro-black? Have I always been for our people? I know many, many black people who went through this obstacle course and had to grow and develop. And I'm one of them. I'm one of them that if you had caught me 20 years ago, like I said, I'd have been all kinds of coon and swirler. If you had caught me 20 years ago. And if I had transitioned like that, that's how I would have been remembered. But now I am pro-black, blackity black, 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 unapologetically pro-black, black. Because I got to continue in my development. And I think that that's something that we should at least consider while we're seeking to chop each other down in the midst of being under attack from the outside anyway. We have all these distractions. We have the oppression porn. We have the manufactured gender war. We have all the celebrity gossip. We have all these things to distract our people. When actually what we need to do is start to focus. Focus on getting off this plantation. Focus on coming together. I'm not saying don't listen to, things that entertain you. I listen to stuff all day long. But there's a time and a place for everything. And always make some kind of an excuse or some kind of a reason for why and legitimize or rationalize the reasons that we do things. And sometimes what we're saying is legitimate. But there's a bigger picture. There's more going on than meets the eye. Now, before I close up, I want to say this to anyone who's thinking about coming into the comments section talking about why you defending Gayle King or why you defending Oprah Winfrey. I'm not defending either one of them. As a matter of fact, most of what I've heard and most of the negativity that I've heard on social media about them, I think is 100% deserved on them. That is not what I'm talking about. They are not who I'm talking about. I'm talking about the situation. I'm talking about getting off this plantation and ultimately looking at the big picture and determining what it is exactly we're doing. What it is exactly we're doing that's effective or not effective as far as getting away from this system. Once again, if your goal is not to get away from this system, then I'm not mad at you. I'm actually not talking to you. But to those of us who want to get away from this mess, then we need to go on and get away from it and stop being distracted by a bunch of foolishness that has basically nothing to do with us. We can shoehorn ourselves in if we want to and make it have something to do with us. But ultimately, if you're trying to get away from this system, a lot of these things have nothing to do with us. My focus is getting off this plantation, as I've said time and time and time again. So again, don't come into the comments section talking as if I'm defending either of these people, because I'm not. I agree with almost all the commentary that I've been hearing. But I'm just looking at the bigger picture, the bigger issue. Because, again, after we have dragged somebody, at the end of the day, what good did it do as far as our separation and escape from this system? And all I'm saying is that we have to start digging beneath the surface. Gayle King is not the problem. She is a symptom. Oprah is not the problem. She is a symptom. Snoop Dogg is not the problem. He is a symptom. And we need to dig deeper. Stop focusing on the one single individual and start focusing on the problem as a whole. And then at the same time, shining a bright light on ourselves and saying, asking ourselves, what is it that I need to do? Who is it that I need to be? What am I doing that I shouldn't be doing? What am I not doing that I should be doing? How can I be more effective? How can I be a better black man or black woman? Not in competition with anybody, not measuring myself against anyone else, measuring yourself against yourself. How can you be the best that you can be? And then ultimately, if it is your goal, start thinking about how to get off this plantation. If your goal is not to get off this plantation, I ain't mad at you. But it's your choice to make. And I think we have too much of grown folk trying to tell other grown folk what to do. Come to your own conclusions, think for yourself, and consider what it takes to be the best you that you can be as a black man, as a black woman, and how you can be of the best service to our people. So that's about it for this Drake the Maniac podcast. I am Ayapo Yapa, the HDIC, the head Drake the Maniac in charge. And as always, brothers and sisters, I will see you on the run.
And thank you again for listening to the Drapedomaniac podcast. Tune in next week at doiamedia.com. DOIAMEDIA.com. And again, we'll catch you on the run. Peace.